Good evening, and welcome to the VSU News 2022 Election Special. I'm Deandra Jacobs, and I'll be your host this evening as we take a look at a few of the key races Georgia voters will decide on November 8th. Statewide, eyes will be focused on the race for the governor's office as Stacey Abrams and incumbent Brian Kemp square off in a rematch of the 2018 race. Nationally, however, the race between Reverend Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker may be the key to deciding which party possesses the Senate majority. We'll have details about each candidate in those races and more throughout the program, but before we dive in, reporter Michael Johnson is standing by with an overview of the Georgia election process. Michael, with the changes made following the 2020 election cycle, what can voters expect at the polls this year?
Thanks, Deandra. The changes to the process are definitely on the minds of many voters across the state. We'll lay out exactly what those changes entail momentarily. But first, I'd like to give a general overview so our viewers are aware of the ins and outs of the process. The 2022 Georgia midterm elections take place on Tuesday, November 8th. Voters will be electing the state's top executives and one of 2 U.S. Senate seats. Georgia's 14 congressional seats are up for election as well. There are different ways in which residents of Georgia can vote. The first is to participate in early voting. According to the Georgia Secretary of State website, voters have 3 weeks before Election Day for early voting, including 2 Saturdays and also Sundays, depending on the county. Georgia residents can also cast their vote through an absentee ballot. An absentee ballot can be utilized through email, mail, fax, online, or in person. The absentee ballot is for registered voters who do not want to vote in person. The county's registrar's office accepts the absentee ballots through the closing of the polls on Election Day. In order to vote by absentee ballot, voters must submit an application by the given deadline. Voters can also vote in person on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at their designated polling places. Georgia's election law was passed in March 2021, following the 2020 presidential election. The new law, otherwise known as Senate Bill 202, has affected many Georgia voters by making sweeping changes to the state election. According to Georgia's Secretary of State, this law shortens the period between elections from 9 weeks to 4 weeks. While counties would be able to offer early voting as soon as possible, the law requires it only be offered Monday to Friday, the week before Election Day. This is a shorter mandate that includes no weekends. This law would also discard the signature verification of mail ballots. Instead, voters are required to provide any valid state or federal government-issued photo ID, such as a driver's license, state ID number, or a photocopy of identification. Secure ballot boxes are now sanctioned under this law, and it will also be implement provisions on their use. Unless there is an emergency, drop boxes can only be utilized inside early voting locations, and Georgia can have no more than 1 per 100,000 voters. The bill also moves up the deadline of which counties must complete their certification by 4 days. For VSU TV, I'm Michael Johnson.
Thanks, Michael. As the day approaches, I think it's safe to say many eyes will be watching the polling process almost as closely as the actual races. As for those races, however, citizens of Georgia will be paying close attention to the governor's battle to see which party will control the purple state for the next 4 years. After this short break, we will dive into some key races.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
The death of George Floyd, who died in police custody Monday night.
Turning my pain into purpose is pretty much what I have done to start this foundation. It's going to take more than just us, as a foundation. It's going to take the community, the world, to help us make a change because it just can't be us.
Welcome back. Now, let's go to reporter Cameron Sanders to learn more about the governor's race.
Thanks, Deandra. Georgia's governor's race includes Republican candidate Brian Kemp and Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams. Brian Kemp was born and raised in Athens, Georgia. According to ballotpedia.org, before entering office, Kemp was a small business owner managing Athens-based Kemp Properties. Governor Kemp and Stacey Abrams faced off against one another in the year of 2018, with Brian Kemp leaving victorious. According to Georgia.gov, incumbent Brian Kemp earned more votes than any gubernatorial candidate in the state history in 2018. Kemp's administration includes his wife Marty Kemp and Trey Kilpatrick, who served as Senator Isaacson's political director, state director, and campaign manager. Brian Kemp's main initiatives include maintaining Georgia's competitive tax environment and cutting burdensome hurdles for small businesses. Kemp also has plans to really strengthen his southern roots as he wants to strengthen rural Georgia. According to Georgia.gov, Kemp plans to increase rural broadband access for economic growth and educational purposes and healthcare access. Because Kemp is from Athens, Georgia, he continues to show support to Georgians in that area. On the other side, Stacey Abrams was born in Madison, Wisconsin, and was the second of 6 siblings. Competitor Stacey Abrams served in the Georgia House of Representatives from 2007 to 2017. Georgia has had a Republican governor since 2003, and Abrams plans to change that. According to StaceyAbrams.com, Abrams plans to expand Medicaid, make Georgia a leader in teacher pay, and to create an earned income tax for all Georgians. According to 538.com, as of November 1st, incumbent Brian Kemp is leading the polls with a 50.9% of Georgian votes to Abrams' only 44.3%. Kemp and Abrams were involved in a gubernatorial debate on October 31st, and when the question of accepting results was asked to both candidates, Kemp had choice words about voter suppression and the polling process. According to USAToday.com, Kemp accused Democrats of stoking fears about voter suppression and has stated Georgia has had record turnouts in past state elections. Stacey Abrams didn't sit quietly with this comment as she accused Kemp of keeping people out of the polling place. As far as immigration goes, both gubernatorial candidates have had different opinions on the topic as well. Incumbent Brian Kemp has leaned towards the Trump administration policy to create a comprehensive database to track illegal aliens, while competitor Abrams has voiced her concerns with the immigration policy as it separates families. According to CNN, Republicans blame the Democrats for Georgia's crime rate and continue to highlight that Abrams would want to defund the police. To debunk that statement, Abrams has stated crime is up due to Republican gun laws. Both candidates have been campaigning that they want what's best for all Georgian families. According to Georgia.gov, Brian Kemp plans to crack down on gang activity and human trafficking affecting the community across Georgia. This plan also branches to college students, as Kemp wants to continue efforts to keep students, teachers, and the personnel safe on campus. On the other hand, bodily autonomy will be the hot issue, with Abrams stating in the NPR interview, "We have unfinished business with women's rights involving women's bodily autonomy and racial justice," referencing the Roe v. Wade ruling by the Supreme Court giving states the power to decide abortion law. Reporting for VSU TV, I am Cameron Sanders.
Thanks, Cameron. While the governor's race is attracting the majority of the headlines, the lieutenant governor's office is also on the ballot this November. After this short break, we will hear more from our reporters.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. A free online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Start saving more for retirement so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back. Another important race on the ballot is the Lieutenant Governor's office. Nia Thompson has the rundown of the race and its candidates. Nia?
This election season, Georgians will look to replace outgoing Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who is not seeking re-election. The candidates for this position have been narrowed down to Democrat Charlie Bailey and Republican Burt Jones. Charlie Bailey was born and raised in Georgia, growing up on a farm in Harris County. He was appointed class president while in law school at University of Georgia Law School and later opened an office of Cook & Connolly LLC law firm in Atlanta. He is now running for lieutenant governor as a Democrat. He has held multiple political positions, such as political director for Mark Taylor in 2006, campaign director for James Marlowe in 2007, and senior assistant district attorney. Burt Jones is a native of Jackson, Georgia, and located in Butts County. After being the captain of the University of Georgia football team, he went on to become an oil executive within his family's company, Jones Petroleum, and the founder of JP Capital and Insurance, Inc. He has been a member of the Georgia Senate since 2012. Jones helped pass Senate Bill 202, which includes a change in OD requirements, allowed limits on early voting hours and days, and reduced the number of drop boxes and their hours of access. He is currently under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice for attempting to overthrow the results of the 2020 presidential election. While it may not be the most glamorous race of the ballot, the results of the race will definitely shape the direction of the state over the next 4 years. For VSU TV, I'm Nia Thompson.
Thanks, Nia. While the statewide races of significant importance for Georgia residents, Americans from across the nation will be keeping a close watch on the race for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Reverend Raphael Warnock. After this short break, we will dive into this important race.
I love you!
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back. The final important race we want to speak about today is for a U.S. Senate seat. This seat is currently held by Reverend Raphael Warnock. Reporter Joshua Julian brings us the details. Joshua?
Thanks, Deandra. That's exactly right. The whole nation will be paying attention to this race, and highlighting the leader of this race is hard because as of now, there is no consensus frontrunner. 538's prediction model has Walker winning in 53 out of 100 simulated races, and most polls give you the same picture. Right-leaning polls from the Daily Wire and Walker's own camp have Walker up from 2 to 4 points. Meanwhile, left-leaning polls from NILC have Warnock up 3 points. Only adding to the intrigue, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has the race dead even, and 538's updating average of public polls has Warnock at his lowest lead of 1.2 points. Why is this race so close? Well, it seems to come down to how starkly different the two candidates are when it comes to their policies and general demeanor. To start, it is important to know where the candidates come from. Herschel Walker has never served in any kind of public office or role. He is much more noteworthy for what he did on the football field. He played for Johnson County High School in Wrightsville, Georgia. He was a college star in Athens at the University of Georgia, dominating for 3 years there, from 1980 to 1982, and winning a Heisman Trophy in 1982. After foregoing his senior season at UGA to play for Donald Trump's New Jersey Generals until the USFL went bankrupt, then Walker declared for the NFL Draft, where he was selected in the 5th round by the Dallas Cowboys. He would go on to have a 12-year career in the league, making the Pro Bowl twice. Born in Savannah with 11 siblings, Warnock was the son of a veteran-turned-preacher, which he eventually went into himself. A graduate of Morehouse College, Warnock earned a PhD and was ordained into ministry, eventually becoming senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, the former pulpit of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Warnock then ran for the Senate in the 2020 election, defeating Kelly Loeffler to be elected to his first public office. In his 2 years in office, he served on multiple committees in the Senate, including the Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee and the Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, where he chairs the Financial Institutions Board. Further complicating matters, the two candidates differ greatly when it comes to their policies and general demeanor. Walker, the former running back, and Warnock, the pastor, have two very different backgrounds, and those differences extend to their stances on key issues. According to a survey done by Fox News, crime, inflation, and abortion rights are the 3 biggest issues that will determine who voters cast their ballot for. Additionally, that are issues that each candidate has highlighted themselves. On Walker's side, he is a big supporter of making the United States energy independent, claiming it will help lower energy prices and bring more jobs to the U.S. In addition to supporting the police, Walker also supports the troops, stating that the U.S. should invest more into the military so that they'll have the best equipped soldiers with the best training. Warnock, on his side, has chosen to highlight Georgia's agriculture industry and climate change. On the agriculture point, Warnock has already fought for debt forgiveness for small farmers and against European Union non-tariff trade barriers on peanut farmers. As for climate change, Warnock's main piece of legislation centers around boosting solar energy production and making America energy independent, similar to Walker's stance. For many reasons, this race will have major implications for the national political scene. Georgia is currently one of a few battleground states as Republicans attempt to reverse the majority the Democrats gained in both the House and the Senate in the 2020 election. With Democratic senators in Arizona, Nevada, and New Hampshire also dealing with razor-thin voting margins, according to Ballotpedia, Georgia could be either a boon of a win for the Democrats or the seat that breaks the 50-50 tie and gives Republicans the desired majority. While they would need to hold on to battleground states such as Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, all either party needs is a net of 1 seat to create major upheaval in the current political climate. For VSU TV, I'm Joshua Julian.
Thanks, Josh. And thank you to each of our reporters for providing valuable insight to each race and candidate. As we approach November 8th, we would be remiss if we did not remind and encourage each viewer to fulfill your civic duty and vote for the candidates that best represent your values and beliefs, as well as your vision of what the state and nation can be as we move forward. Let us not forget or take for granted a fundamental aspect of our democratic society, the right to freely elect our leaders. On behalf of VSU TV, I would like to thank our entire production crew, including executive producers Dr. Colin Walker and Professor Joseph Culverhouse. I'm Deandra Jacobs. Thank you and good night.